My fiancé's first love killed someone. To help her escape punishment, Warren Stone personally threw the disfigured victim into the sea. But he didn't know, the victim was me. 3 days later, he returned home, wanting me to introduce the new project's investor to him. But I was already in the sea. When he later learned the truth, he went completely mad. Ding! This novel reminds you to click the subscribe button in the bottom right corner to read the complete novel. The night sea was far from calm. Amidst the mist, the ship rocked as it moved forward. Warren stood at the bow, suddenly raising his hand to signal. "All right, throw it here." "But, Mr. Stone." His assistant Elon hesitated. "Are you really going to help Miss Ginny? If this gets exposed, your life will be ruined." Warren Stone's gaze swept over the corpse on the deck, hesitating for a moment. Ironically, I was wearing the clothes he had bought for me. If he had even a little bit of his mind on me, he would have recognized that the disfigured corpse was me. 3 hours ago, Warren Stone's first love, Ginny, came to him crying. "Warren, I made a mistake. You must help me this time, I don't want to go to jail. I'm still so young, I don't want my life to be ruined like this." "Didn't you say you would always protect me?" Warren agreed. But he didn't know that Ginny had concealed the identity of the deceased. After killing me, to prevent Warren from recognizing me, she went so far as to destroy my face. Her methods were so cruel, it was shocking. To leave no traces, the corpse had to be completely disposed of. Warren Stone had maritime businesses, so it was easy for him to get a ship. As long as the body was thrown into the sea, it would be as if nothing had happened. My fiancé really had some clever tricks. Warren stubbed out his cigarette, took one last look at the sea, and coldly said, "Throw it, I'll take responsibility if anything happens." They lifted my battered body, ready to throw it into the sea. "Wait." Warren suddenly spoke. He slowly approached me, his gaze fixed on the ring finger of my right hand. There used to be a ring there, a gift from him. But Ginny had taken it off. Did he find this body familiar? But the next second, he still mercilessly waved his hand. With a splash, I was thrown into the sea. At that moment, coldness seeped into the depths of my soul from all directions, making me shiver. Would Warren Stone regret everything he did today? I thought I would just leave like this. Unexpectedly, my soul seemed to be trapped by some force, and I was forced to stay by Warren's side. Angrily, I cursed him with the most venomous words. "Warren Stone, you will die a miserable death. You didn't treat me well when I was alive, and now you won't let me be free after death. If you care so much about Ginny, why were you with me? You are all murderers. I hate you." But Warren couldn't hear me. After disposing of the body, he went back to see Ginny. "Everything is taken care of, but I warn you, this is the only time. From now on, you are on your own." Ginny looked pitiful. "Warren, don't be so cold to me. I didn't mean to hurt anyone, she tried to take away what I loved, I just lost control for a moment." The thing Ginny loved was Warren Stone. She didn't lose control, she had planned to get rid of me all along. And then take my place as Mrs. Stone. Back then, she and Warren didn't end up together because of her own doing. At that time, Warren was still the most disregarded illegitimate child of the Stone family. They met in school and were considered the most compatible couple. But Ginny was ambitious and didn't think an illegitimate child had any future. She turned to seduce the eldest son of the Rowe family. Warren was heartbroken and depressed for a long time. Later, by chance, we met at a class reunion. We were playing Truth or Dare, and when it was Warren's turn, someone suggested he confess to a girl in the room. And he chose me. It was just a game, but he spoke to me with utmost seriousness. "Your eyes are the most beautiful I have ever seen, clear and bright, without a trace of impurity, like the purest gem in the world, making people fall for them. If possible, I hope to be your boyfriend." I thought he was just being glib. Unexpectedly, he really started pursuing me from then on. And he pursued me for 2 years. I was moved by his sincerity and agreed to be with him. After graduation, he didn't rely on his family and started his own business. I stayed with him, and in just 4 years, he made his business flourish. Then we naturally got engaged, renovated our new house, and set a wedding date. But just 3 months ago, Warren started to become distracted and increasingly perfunctory with me. He began working overtime and attending various social engagements. When I expressed my dissatisfaction, he would brush me off with words. "Didn't you say you wanted to go on a honeymoon after the wedding? I have to get the work arranged first." But it wasn't long before Ginny came to me, with a look of determination on her face. She was still the same, just standing there, attracting everyone's attention. She said, "I came back for one thing, to take Warren away from you." It was only then that I realized why Warren had been acting so strangely lately. By the time Warren returned home, 3 days had already passed. During those 3 days, my soul had been following him around. He went on a business trip, and it seemed he was indeed arranging various tasks. During this period, he did contact me. The day before my accident, we had a big fight because he didn't accompany me to try on wedding dresses. He couldn't reach me on the phone and concluded that I was sulking. If it weren't for the fact that I was in charge of securing investments for the company, he probably wouldn't have been in such a hurry to find me. Warren had been sending me voice messages nonstop while on the road, but I didn't respond to any of them. The moment he got home, he couldn't wait to scold me. "Delia Byrne, how long are you going to keep this up? You're not a child anymore. It's just trying on a wedding dress, and you insist that I be there. You promised to introduce me to the investors today, and now you've just disappeared. You don't answer your phone, you don't reply to messages. Are you trying to show you're independent? Forget it. I bought your favorite soufflé. Come out and eat." The housekeeper Lena heard the noise and came out of the kitchen. "Mr. Stone, Miss Byrne is not at home." Warren frowned, seemingly thinking of something. "Hasn't she been home for a few days?" Lena nodded. "Yes, Miss Byrne left 3 days ago and hasn't come back since." "She's pulling this trick on me again," he said, grabbing his car keys and walking out. "Ha! Warren Stone thinks I'm sulking back at my hometown like before? My parents divorced when I was young, and my grandmother raised me. Several times, when our fights got intense and he didn't come to console me, I would pack up and go back to my hometown for a few days. After we both calmed down, we would have a good talk, and the matter would be resolved. Actually, we weren't always like this. I remember when we first got together, no matter whose fault it was, he would always be the first to apologize until I was happy again. When did he stop putting in the effort to console me? Even I can't quite remember. I just know that as time went on, his gifts became more and more perfunctory. Many times, he had his assistant pick them out. He stopped celebrating Valentine's Day with me and couldn't remember our anniversaries. He even forgot the day I was trying on wedding dresses. But as long as Ginny said a word, he was willing to take such a big risk to settle things for her. In the end, I misplaced my trust. Now, I just want to see them get the punishment they deserve. 2 hours later, Warren arrived at my hometown. Seeing the tightly closed door, he stepped forward, knocked, and started calling my name. "Delia Byrne, open the door, it's me." The only response he got was the silent wind. He didn't know that 3 months ago, my grandmother had passed away. When I received the news, I wanted him to come back with me, but I found out he had gone to the airport to pick someone up. And the person he picked up was Ginny, who had just returned to the country. Heartbroken, I had to come back alone to handle my grandmother's funeral. After returning, I ignored him for a whole month. I had thought about whether I should continue with him. But after so many years, I had already gotten used to having him by my side. I was unwilling to give up, thinking that I was the one who had always been there for him. Why should Ginny take my place? At this moment, Warren also heard from the neighbors that my grandmother had passed away. For a moment, his face showed visible panic. He took out his phone and kept calling me. "Delia, answer the phone. Why didn't you tell me about something so important? Delia, where are you?" When he couldn't get through, he looked through our chat history. After our argument that day, he had stormed out. I had only sent him one message. "If you leave, don't come back." Ironically, it was me who couldn't come back. Next, Warren called everyone around me one by one. But he didn't get any useful information. Normally, as my fiancé, he should have chosen to call the police at this point. But Warren didn't do that. Was he afraid that what happened that day would be exposed? If so, he wouldn't be able to protect Ginny anymore. For the next half day, Warren searched all the places I might have gone. By now, it was already close to dawn. Warren sat in the car, his face full of exhaustion. He raised his hand to rub his temples, seemingly realizing something, and muttered to himself. Delia must be really angry this time, right? I sat next to him, letting out a cold laugh. At this point, he still hadn't considered whether something might have happened to me. He just thought I was sulking and hiding. Warren Stone, you really think highly of me. What makes you think I'm omnipotent? Indeed, everyone acknowledged my work capabilities. It could be said that without me, his company wouldn't have come this far. But in the end, I'm just an ordinary woman. I can feel hurt and get tired. When I'm wronged, I also want to hide in his arms and cry like before. But it seems Warren has forgotten all that. The car was filled with smoke. Warren didn't know what he was thinking, lighting one cigarette after another. Until Ginny called. Warren, come save me. Warren extinguished his cigarette, his voice tinged with urgency. What happened? It's Frank Rowe. Don't panic, I'll be right there. After saying that, Warren hit the gas and sped off. The speed reached 140 kilometers per hour. Whenever I was with him, he never drove over the speed limit. But whenever Ginny was in trouble, he couldn't care less about anything else. The car finally stopped in front of a bar. When Warren saw Ginny in the private room, she was already being held by Frank Rowe's men. Ginny cried out, Warren, save me. Her tear-streaked face was truly heartbreaking. Warren gave her a reassuring look, then turned to Frank Rowe. What do you want? This Frank Rowe was the eldest son of the Rowe family. Back then, Ginny chose Frank over Warren, and then followed him abroad. I thought, given Ginny's skills, the two of them would make it work. But now it seemed she had fallen out with Frank Rowe. Frank Rowe gestured to his men, and a thick stack of bills was handed to Warren. This is the money she took from me over the past 5 years. Since she can't pay it back, I can only let her pay it off in other ways. But she just told me someone could pay it back for her, and that person is you. Frank Rowe pointed at Warren, looking smug. Warren glanced at the bills and sneered. Is this small amount worth making such a fuss, Mr. Rowe? Frank Rowe circled around Warren, his eyes scrutinizing him. I didn't expect you to become someone worth noticing after these years. Then you pay her debt. I looked at the amount, it wasn't small, a total of over 6 million. Warren didn't even blink. It's important to know that this money wasn't just his. Our new product development needed funds, and my death would definitely delay the investment. Warren just allocated such a large sum of money. He's digging his own grave. Ginny was successfully rescued and looked at Warren with eyes full of admiration. Warren, I caused you trouble again. I don't have anything to repay you with, but if you're willing, I can offer myself to you. Warren paused while fastening his seatbelt, his face somewhat unnatural. I have a fiancé. Ginny lowered her eyelids and said. I know, but you don't love her that much, do you? That night we reunited, you clearly said you missed me. Whenever something happens to me, you come to me immediately. You still have feelings for me, don't you? Warren's eyes were dark and unclear, his voice carrying a bit of difficulty. If it weren't for me, Frank Rowe wouldn't treat you this way. At this, Ginny's eyes reddened again. Back then, you were drugged and in so much pain. I was willing to help you. But Frank Rowe holds a grudge about this. He feels he's not my first man and often beats and abuses me. I need more money to leave him, but I got addicted to gambling because of it. Warren, I won't do it again. I'll be good. Please don't despise me. Warren raised his hand to help Ginny wipe away her tears. In my eyes, you're still the same as you were before, and you'll never change. I watched the two of them gaze at each other. Strangely, I didn't feel any emotion, only irony. Warren probably would never know that the person who drugged him was Ginny. She told me herself. 5 days ago, Warren didn't come home all night. In the morning, I received a photo from Ginny. In the photo was the sleeping Warren. I'm willing not to compete with you for Warren, but I have conditions. Then she sent an address. I thought for a long time and decided to meet Ginny. If I couldn't accept her conditions, I would give up my engagement with Warren Stone. A forced relationship is not sweet, and an unfaithful man is not worth keeping. I might as well consider my years of sincere feelings as wasted. The address Ginny gave me was in an alley behind our old school. When I arrived, she had already ordered 2 bowls of beef offal noodles. When Warren and I were in school, we used to eat at this place most often. You should try it too. I sat down without a change in expression but didn't touch the chopsticks. I'm not interested in your past. Back in school, I had heard about their story from others. Later, when Warren pursued me, no one mentioned these things in front of me anymore. If you have something to say, just say it. I have to meet a client. Ginny smiled slightly. Since you're here, you must have time. I want you to go somewhere with me. Where? Now that I think about it carefully, Ginny had actually planned everything a long time ago. This alley is quite remote and the people here are mixed. There's no place to park at the entrance, and there are no surveillance cameras either. Inside the alley, there's an underground casino. After bringing me here, Ginny revealed her true colors. Originally, I didn't want to hurt you. You can't compete with me, but as long as you're alive, Warren will never let you suffer financially. He's always been so kind. When I sensed the danger and wanted to run, it was already too late. In fact, if she wanted to harm me, I couldn't defend myself. I was pinned to the ground by the people she brought, unable to move. We're both women, I'll give you a dignified way to die. Ginny's lips curled into a cruel smile. To tell you the truth, I've developed a gambling addiction over the years and owe a lot of money. If I don't pay it back, I'll be the one to die. Frank Rowe, along with those people, has been pressuring me. I have no other way out. I have to take Warren back from you, only then can I get all his assets. Don't blame me for being ruthless. Now, she was preparing to devour Warren bit by bit. Indeed, what goes around comes around. If Warren knew that the woman he always cherished was so heartless, what kind of scene would that be? Warren sent Ginny back home. Before getting out of the car, Ginny looked at Warren with a pitiful expression. Warren, I've been having nightmares lately. Can you stay with me tonight? Warren didn't answer immediately. Instead, he stared at the little deer figurines on the dashboard. I had made those 2 little deer by hand. They weren't particularly well made. But I had put a lot of thought into them. When I gave them to him, I specially explained. These symbolize a safe journey. I hope that whenever you see these 2 deer while driving, you'll remember my words. Don't speed, drive safely, because I'm waiting for you at home. Was he thinking of me? Ridiculous. Seeing that Warren didn't respond, Ginny repeated herself. Warren, I recently learned how to make health porridge. I really want you to try it. Next time, it's too late now. Warren's tone was weary. All right then. Ginny got out of the car reluctantly. At this moment, she must be eager to win over Warren immediately. But if she rushes, she'll ruin everything. She understood this better than anyone. Warren drove home steadily. The housekeeper was already asleep, and he was probably hungry. He took out the souffle he had bought in the morning from the fridge and started eating it. It probably didn't taste good, so he stopped halfway through. He returned to the bedroom, turned on the light, and stared at the empty bed for a long time. Delia, what do I have to do to find you? Early the next morning, his assistant Elon called. Mr. Stone, several shareholders are asking about the new project investor. Has Miss Byrne given any updates? Warren sat up in bed. Stall them for now. I'll come to the office later. Now, Warren was really anxious. He searched the house thoroughly but couldn't find my laptop. Of course, he couldn't find it. I always carried my laptop with me. Ginny had already disposed of the laptop to avoid leaving any evidence of my murder. At this point, Warren had no choice but to call the police. After the call, the police quickly arrived to investigate the house. A young officer was responsible for the questioning. Mr. Stone, you said your fiancé has been missing for 5 days. Why are you only reporting it now? Warren's eyes didn't evade, showing no signs of guilt. It's like this: I was on a business trip for the first 3 days. After returning, I searched for her for a whole day before confirming she was missing. When was the last time you saw your fiancé? A trace of guilt flashed across Warren's face. It was the night before she went missing. That day, we had a big fight because I didn't accompany her to try on wedding dresses. Hearing this, the young police officer gave Warren a second glance. After questioning the housekeeper, the police left. Warren sat dejectedly on the sofa, not saying a word. At this moment, Lena brought a plate of dumplings. "Mr. Stone, have some breakfast. Miss Byrne made these herself, they're your favorite beef dumplings." Hearing this, Warren immediately picked up the dumplings and started eating. "Eat them, because you'll never have them again." In the afternoon, Warren went to the company. He found my assistant and tried to contact the project investor. But he didn't know that the reason the investor chose our company was because they trusted me. Over the years, I had been in charge of several rounds of company financing. I had indeed built quite a network. Warren rashly called them, but the person on the other end just gave a few perfunctory responses. Before he could even mention the investment, the call was hung up. Warren was furious. At this moment, Ginny happened to come in. Maybe she thought I was already dead, so she boldly entered Warren's office with a pot of porridge. Warren paused when he saw her. "What are you doing here?" "Warren, you used to have a bad stomach, so I made some porridge for you. Drink it while it's hot." Warren pressed his lips together, lost in thought. Ginny blinked innocently and asked, "Warren, did I do something wrong?" Warren shook his head. "I won't drink the porridge. My stomach is fine now." A flash of jealousy crossed Ginny's eyes. "It's because of Delia, right? She really is a remarkable woman. I can't compare to her." Just then, Warren's phone rang. His eyes lit up as he quickly picked up the phone. But when he saw the caller ID, a look of disappointment crossed his face. The call was from the police. They said they had found my car and asked Warren to come over. Ginny overheard their conversation. After Warren hung up, she asked in disbelief, "You called the police? My fiancé is missing. Shouldn't I call the police?" Warren retorted. Ginny gave a forced smile, "Of course. By the way, Delia and I were classmates. I'll go with you." At the police station, the officer showed Warren a surveillance video. "Your fiancé got off the car and never came back. During this time, no one approached the car. We have very few clues. We can only expand the search area now." At this moment, Warren seemed to finally realize the seriousness of the situation, and his face turned very grim. Could she have met with foul play? It was the same young officer from before, who was carefully observing Warren's expression. But he still offered some comfort. "Think positively. Maybe she just went into hiding." However, just then, the police received another call. "Reed, a fisherman found a woman's body near the shore. Take a few people and check it out." Upon hearing the word body, Warren quickly raised his head and met Ginny's frightened gaze. The young officer, Reed, noticed this but misunderstood. "Mr. Stone, are you worried this body might be related to your fiancé?" Warren snapped out of it and shook his head. "Of course not. My fiancé would never go to the shore. She gets seasick. Officer Reed, please do your best to find my fiancé as soon as possible." After saying this, Warren quickly left the police station. In contrast, Ginny was clearly not as composed. She was trembling uncontrollably. "Warren, what should we do? What if that body is?" "It won't be." Warren interrupted her. "I threw it in the deep sea area. It can't be discovered. It must be a coincidence." It was unclear if he was trying to convince himself or Ginny. But as the saying goes, the more you fear something, the more likely it is to happen. In the evening, Warren received another call from the police station. They said they had identified the deceased. Warren asked, "Who is it?" "Your fiancé." On the way there, Warren ran several red lights and rear-ended a pickup truck. In his hurry, he threw a wad of cash at the driver and left. It wasn't until he saw my body that he finally understood that the body he had disposed of that night was mine. After I died, my face was already ruined. After a week of soaking, the body was beyond recognition. Warren might not remember the clothes I usually wore, but he wouldn't forget the clothes the female corpse was wearing that night. Almost instantly, the color drained from his face. No, impossible. Delia, how could it be? It must be a mistake. It must be. Officer Reed handed Warren a document. I'm sorry, but after DNA identification, the deceased is indeed your fiancé. Please accept our condolences. Warren's hands trembled uncontrollably as he read the content of the document, and large tears fell onto the paper. Delia. Why did it have to be like this? I floated in midair, watching everything coldly. Would Warren feel sad about my death? With me gone, he could be with Ginny again, without any worries. His current behavior was probably just for the police to see. There were still many doubts in the case, so my body was temporarily kept at the police station. When Warren came out, he looked dazed, as if he had lost his soul. He started the car numbly and drove aimlessly on the road. Until Ginny's call came in. Warren glanced at the phone screen and then floored the gas pedal. He sped all the way to Ginny's house and knocked on the door frantically. Was he in a hurry to make Ginny run away? Even at this moment, Warren was worried about her. Ginny opened the door, and before she could say Warren, he grabbed her by the neck. The man's eyes glowed with a blood-red light, and a strong killing intent emanated from him. The force in his hand kept increasing. It was you who killed Delia, it was you. How dare you? Ginny, you played me for a fool, I'm going to kill you. Ginny's originally fair face quickly turned a liver color. She struggled continuously, squeezing out a few words with difficulty. Warren, listen, let me explain. Warren was unmoved. Just when I thought Warren was really going to strangle Ginny, he suddenly let go. It turned out Ginny was crying. The tears fell on Warren's hand, and he softened instantly. Of course. This was Warren Stone. Ginny was always different in his heart. Otherwise, he wouldn't have taken such a big risk for her and even paid off her debts. Even knowing that his fiancé was killed by her, he still softened his heart. Warren stood stiffly, his fingertips trembling slightly. Explain, go ahead, or I'll still hand you over to the police. Ginny covered her neck with both hands, bent over, and gasped for a long time before slowly straightening up. Warren, whether you believe it or not, I have to say it. I really didn't mean to harm Delia. She had actually sent someone to follow you long ago, so she naturally knew I was back and had met you. That day she asked to meet me, cursed me as the other woman, and even hit me. In a panic, I pushed her, who knew it would end like this. I regret it too. I should have let her hit and curse me. I'm used to it, right? I was born the lowly one in their eyes. Frank Rowe said it, and so did Delia Byrne. As Ginny spoke, her shoulders shook, and she cried particularly miserably. I didn't know she was so good at making things up. She certainly didn't deserve to be called a pure and innocent one. Warren's face showed a hint of emotion. Ginny continued. Now that it has happened, Warren, if we really count it, neither of us can escape the law's punishment. Delia Byrne's death is partly her own fault, not entirely mine. Why don't we run away, to a place where no one knows us, and live a good life? She really had a good plan. What would Warren choose? He suddenly seemed to wake up. I can't run away, I still need to help Delia with her burial. Her parents have long abandoned her, and now even her only caring grandmother is gone. Delia only has me left, I can't leave her. Seeing this, I couldn't help but listen to a sentence. What is he pretending now? He could let go of my killer, so what if he helps bury me? I would still die with regrets. Ginny didn't say anything more, but a calculating look flashed in her eyes. I could roughly guess her thoughts. But Warren was still immersed in his own thoughts, completely unaware. After leaving Ginny's house, Warren went to a bridal shop. He found the wedding dress I had chosen, holding it in his hands, looking at it over and over again. Tears fell drop by drop onto the pristine white wedding dress. Delia, I'm sorry. You must look beautiful in a wedding dress, but I didn't get to see it. It's my fault, I deserve to die. I shouldn't have argued with you, and I shouldn't have left you. Can you come back? I never intended to be with Ginny. I just felt guilty towards her. When I was with her back then, I had nothing and gave her nothing, but the one I always wanted to marry was you. Delia, please forgive me. I sneered, Warren Stone, I will never forgive you. When Officer Reed came in with his team, Warren was still in a daze. Mr. Stone, we suspect that Miss Burns' death is related to you. Please come with us. Warren clung to the wedding dress, refusing to let go. I will go with you, but please let me buy this wedding dress first. I want to give it to my fiancé. Officer Reed looked a bit speechless. Mr. Stone, she's already dead. What's the point of doing this? Let's go. As the silver handcuffs clicked shut, the last bit of light in Warren's eyes extinguished. In the interrogation room, Warren was being questioned. Mr. Stone, our examination revealed that Miss Byrne was struck on the back of the head with a heavy object, leading to her death. After she died, the killer smashed her face, probably to prevent her from being identified. Also, we found out that you went out to sea on the day Miss Byrne died. Can you tell us what you were doing that night? Struck on the back of the head with a heavy object? Warren kept repeating this sentence. Ginny's lie was exposed. No. To be precise, Warren could no longer deceive himself. He had seen my body with his own eyes. If I had really fallen to my death, my face wouldn't have been smashed beyond recognition. He trusted Ginny too much. Always had. Mr. Stone, please answer our question. When Warren looked up again, his eyes were frighteningly red. He clenched his fists tightly, gritting his teeth. It was Ginny, she lied to me, she was the one who killed her. But if I'm not mistaken, Ginny must already be on the run by now. Upon learning that Warren had seen Ginny not long ago, Officer Reed quickly reacted. Quick, go and catch her. Ginny was caught at the airport. I shudder to think, if the police had been a little later, she would have really escaped. When Ginny was taken to the police station, Warren saw her. He broke free from the police beside him and charged at her like a madman. You spiteful woman, I'll kill you. You destroyed my family, ruined everything I had. Go to hell. Several police officers quickly pulled Warren away. This is the police station, what do you think you're doing? An eye for an eye, the law will bring justice. Besides, you can't escape responsibility for your fiancé's death, so why bother? Since he was handcuffed, Warren didn't actually harm Ginny. Instead, Ginny had been crying ever since she was caught. Now that she's crying, it's too late. Life in prison is not easy. Ginny's crimes were a fact, and she was just waiting for the verdict to be executed. As for Warren, he hadn't eaten or drunk anything for several days, sitting by that small window every day in a daze. When Elon came, Warren finally had some reaction. He asked, "How's the company now?" Elon avoided his gaze, "Everything's fine." Really? Elon, tell me the truth, it's okay. Elon hesitated for a moment before speaking. Mr. Stone, after you were arrested, several shareholders were afraid of being implicated. Coupled with the funds not being able to return, they sold their shares to the rival company at a low price. Warren gave a self-mocking smile, I expected that. Elon, can you do me a favor? Help me bury Delia. The next day, Warren insisted on seeing Officer Reed. He said he wanted to know why Ginny wanted to kill me. Officer Reed looked at the devastated man in front of him, silent. Warren's tone was pleading, I just want to know the whole truth. A sigh was heard. Did you know Ginny was a gambler? Warren's pupils contracted sharply. He knew, but he also believed Ginny would change. In his eyes, Ginny was beautiful, untouchable. He didn't even dare to associate those bad things with her. And I, having been with him for so many years, he seemed to be very vague about my character. Ginny said I abused her, but I wouldn't stoop to such things. I was even ready to give up on Warren, to let them be together. Ginny was certainly hateful, but what truly killed me was Warren's indecisiveness. Officer Reed continued, Ginny had her eyes on your wealth and wanted to take it all. Delia Byrne was an obstacle, so she cruelly killed her. Warren covered his face, his body trembling violently. After a long time, he choked out. And after Delia died, I became an accomplice, heartlessly throwing her into the sea, and then repeatedly helping the murderer who killed her. Delia had a deep sea phobia, yet I threw her into the sea. I deserve to die. You do deserve to die. I stood there, not feeling the satisfaction of great revenge. What good is their punishment? I'm still dead. I just hope that in my next life, I never meet Warren Stone again. 3 days later, in a certain prison, a man took his own life. It's said that when he died, he had a smile on his face. Meanwhile, in the underworld, on the bridge of helplessness, Warren chased after me. Delia, I finally see you again. Let's never be apart again, okay? I smiled, but I can be reincarnated, while you have to go to the realm of animals. We will never be together.